Hi guys and welcome to MentorMe's YouTube channel. My name is Alan Arun and I'm a CFA charter holder and also the founder of MentorMe Careers. I've about 10 to 15 years of experience teaching students for investment banking roles. And today I've come up with a topic which I've been meaning to talk about since a lot of time because there's been a lot of mis-selling which generally happens in this kinds of careers, which is basically data science careers, what I'm trying to talk about. You and a lot of other students end up spending a lot of money which probably is not required if you actually see what exactly is happening in data science jobs. So what I'm going to do in this video is, first of all, I'm going to talk about what's not going to work, the real jobs in terms of what exactly they do, in which I'll be showing you a couple of profiles which probably will prove the point of what exactly is the reality of jobs. Thirdly, I will be talking about the skills and education required for you to succeed in this field. And finally, I'll talk about the good practices, the things which you can actually do to actually become a data scientist. Let's talk about the reality of jobs in data science, as opposed to what you might think. That you will be working on algorithms and you'll be creating those AI systems. In reality, if you actually see this quote given by a very senior data scientist, is that most of the times what you will actually be doing is just cleaning data. Because believe it or not, you might think that data is directly processed and you can actually do a lot of machine learning in the data itself. But, but the reality is very different because the data has to be processed, the data has to be cleaned, and then some analysis can actually be done, right? In fact, if you actually look at this chart, it actually clearly talks about how much time is spent on various phases of a data science project, which you can clearly see that 60% of the time what we are actually doing is just getting the data ready. And that's why most of the jobs are actually for data engineers who actually focus on getting and organizing the data itself. I'll be taking some examples which will prove this point to you. Now, if you look at beyond that 60% work, is 90% is just collecting the data sets, because you have to know what data you actually require. Because if you don't know what data you actually require, then what analysis can you actually do? And after that, if you actually see, about 5 to about 7% is what you're actually spending on real machine learning. Because if your data is ready and if you've collected the data correctly, then running a machine learning algorithm doesn't really actually take a lot of time, right? And let me also give you an example of what I mean by that. So this is a popular case in data science courses, which actually is taught in terms of organizing the data. This is called the Titanic case study. And if you actually see, the data is, apart from the passenger IDs survived and the peak class data, which is in zeros and ones, there's a lot of data which cannot be processed directly because the system or the computer does not understand. You cannot use that data in a machine learning code unless you change them. For example, if you see the sex or the gender of a person is given in terms of a text, now that has to be converted into zeros and ones. Right. Similarly, if you see there's something related to a ticket data, which probably does not even affect the analysis that you're trying to do. Right. By the way, in the Titanic case, what we're actually trying to do is trying to understand the survival rates basis what kind of background the person has. Right. So if you see, the ticket obviously has no effect, and plus the names also don't have an effect. But the cabin might actually have an effect. Right. So if you are in an upper class cabin, probably your chances of survival in terms of rescue might have been higher. So now this data has to be actually converted into something that can actually be analyzed, which if you see here, now this is the more cleaned version of the data, wherein what you have done is you have the passenger ID, you have the survived ID, whether if you have survived, it is 1, if you have not survived, it's 0. And the passenger class in terms of which ticket type you have, plus the age, and if you can see, all the other datas are basically in terms of something which actually can be used in machine learning, right? And this is what we are talking in terms of exploring the data or cleaning the data or organizing the data, which is where 60% of the time is spent, right? And that's what you majorly need to know in order to get a data science job, right? Now, let's also look at some of the experience. So I've taken three random profiles of data scientists from LinkedIn, and I've obviously not shown the names. But if you can see how they started the career, most of them, if you see, have started as ML engineer, which is nothing but actually performing data cleaning activities, right? And a lot of them have also spent a lot of time doing market research, which probably might be just researching on data and trends. So basically, working with data, but not exactly data scientists. So the problem is that people are expecting, or students generally expect, that the first job they get is going to be about really running algorithms or actually running a project. That's not how actually it happens. First, the kind of jobs that you are actually getting is about data extracting and data cleaning. Right now, if I come and see in terms of this is a very nice infographic actually I got in terms of what the background of data scientists actually is. Right. So if you see. There is only about 13 odd percent people who have actually gone into a data science course, and from there they've actually become a data scientist. Most of them, if you see, do not have a formal education in data science. So they've learned it using their own self-study mechanisms, or maybe Udemy, or very short pace, or probably books that they have referred to. And most of the backgrounds are somewhat backgrounds probably you might already have. So, you might have an engineering background, you might have a natural science background, you might have an economics or a commerce background, you might have a mathematics background, which is fine, right? So, the background does not really have to be from a data science degree, which is where people are spending a lot of money. They spend 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, taking PGs for data science, but the industry really is not asking for any of those backgrounds. What it's actually asking you is for skills, which are these, right? So you need to have some domain where you want to operate as a data scientist, right? So if you're coming from an engineering background, so if you can see this profile out here that we spoke about, the second profile you see was an engineer, is a software engineer. So from software engineer, the person is shifted into mechanical, machine learning engineering, and then from there the person has got into data science, right? If you look at the first profile, the person has actually started from market research. So maybe the person just held a normal commerce degree, and from there the person has got into data science, right? And similarly, the third profile also, if you see, the person is actually an engineer. So if you come from an engineering background, the domain really does not matter. So none of them actually have a formal data science degree, right? And it's actually just a waste of time if you're doing that, right? After that, of course, apart from your basic background that you have, you need to obviously know minimum of 2 languages. And this is very specific because you obviously need Python, because even if you want to clean data or analyze the data, you will be doing in some language. And the most popular one, and always be, is going to be Python, right? So Python is going to be the language that you need to know. And I'm not talking Python in terms of coding Python. I'm talking about Python in terms of using a notebook, a Jupyter notebook, and the analysis Python. So you don't really need to know how to code in programs. All you need to know is how to do analysis. So it's something like Excel, right? I mean, you can learn the entire Excel, but you actually don't need that much of Excel. You only need Excel to the extent of doing analysis, right? Now, finally, after that, you need to know the basic machine learning algorithms, but at a practical level. You should understand what exactly is happening at a mathematical level. That's more important than actually executing machine learning algorithms, because at the end of the day, you will actually not be doing much of machine learning algorithm deployment as it is in your first job. So what's the point learning it at the first place? But understanding how it works is actually very useful. And if you can, this could be the biggest thing you could do, is to actually develop some background in maths, specifically algebraic maths, because a lot of these linear algebra concepts are actually used in machine learning algorithms. So if you understand linear algebra well, then machine learning is probably not going to be that difficult, and you can actually build on that concepts later on, right? And after that, of course, what to learn is clear, but what should you practice? Now, this is where probably you should be spending a lot of time after you have honed the basic data science skills, is to do GitHub projects, because these are the projects which can actually give you the real life industry experience, because these projects are real, right? The competitions that are run here are real. Kaggle competitions are real. GitHub projects are real. So you'll be able to work and get a feel of the real world work, right? And plus, if you get internships, even better. But even if you don't get internships, but you've done a lot of GitHub projects or Kaggle projects, that's pretty good. A lot of people who are going to skip this part is knowing how to present. You should be developing not just how to make a presentation, but how do you actually present, right? How do you present a case? What to present? What kind of charts to use, what kind of information to give, And finally, communication skills, because there is no other, because most of the time you'll be working with clients abroad and they don't speak your language. So communication is going to be of utmost importance if you want to find any job in India. So that's how the reality of data science is in terms of the jobs and the requirements, as opposed to what the general understanding of just getting a PG in data science and then spending lakhs and lakhs doing an MSc in data science is really not going to help you to get something. I mean, it's not that if you do PG data science, you're not going to get a job. You want to get a job, but you might have got the job anyways by probably spending less than 10,000. So I hope this video helps, and I'll see you again in another video next time. Bye bye.